Move that up a little bit. So right here is where I'm seeing a lot of the area merge together. Now what's happening down here is some of it, instead of brown, there is blue-gray all throughout this spot. And let's start with the lightest value, which is right here. And as we do that, we'll be able to create an implied edge right here. Because what's happening, there's the ellipse, and then there's the front plane of the glass there. And so what essentially is happening is this lighter value is right in here, and I'm sort of scumbling it in like that. It's right there. And then there's a darker spot. I'm going to add some darker blue-gray over here. And what happens is it does naturally fuse with the umber that's underneath, so it warms it up. So my objective here is to just show that curve of the ellipse right here by painting this spot and this spot up above. There's some darker areas up here. Now I'm noticing some of that same dark, since I just painted this up here. This is a case where some of the umber picked up itself on my brush and warmed up the blue-gray slightly, so I'm able to move it down here. See, now I'm moving tonalities around. Sort of scumbling on top, very thinly. We'll be restating marks on top and also painting the negative space a little bit more to sharpen up edges, you'll see as we move along here. And actually, as I stand here, this olive is moving around. So I may have to move the olive back, or who knows. I'll figure that out later. I'm not worried about the olive, because allowing the green to move into the glass is actually a plus. I don't really mind breaking through the olive again. Some of that's right here. Right there. Now let's move back into some of the darks. There's some darks in here. So in terms of darks, we've got this dark spot right here. There's a spot right here. Right here there's a dark spot. And then we may even restate the bottom of the olive just to pop out that dark. And then down towards the bottom of the stem, you have these darks, which is basically the same color as the fabric. I'm going to move that up in throughout here. And then from there, we'll definitely move into showing some of this yellow ochre tonality up here, which is the gin. And then from there, who knows, probably the negative space will move into and sharpen up the edge. My darks, I'm going to work with a bit of this carmine, but instead of using it so chromatically, I'm going to darken it with the umber. So there again, umber, we're mixing in umber just to darken it, bring it down in value, and then add a small amount of linseed oil just to make it transparent. We'll paint into some of those dark spots I just pointed out. Let me add a little bit more umber, a little bit more carmine, just to thicken it up a tiny bit. Some there, then there's a mark here, and I'm noticing a small amount right there. And every time I move my head like a fraction of an inch, the shape of the dark changes. So there is a bit of inventiveness taking place. Don't think that your shape has to be exactly the same shape that you're seeing. What's important is to understand and observe closely the exact types of relationships that are taking place. In terms of the shapes of the relationships, well, that's going to change. That's always changing as the light changes. But to be able to document the sense of illusion in terms of realism, you need to train your mind and eye to work together to see those subtle contrasts. Another major component of doing what I'm doing is contrasting the relative thickness and thinness of paint. I'm dragging the paint in some cases. See, there we are here. That dark here. Now I'm seeing a spot of dark up top. Let's get that. But before we do that, I'm just going to scumble in a small amount of this down here. I want to allow some of the undertone to come through. So I'm just scumbling on top of the stem. Using that same red that I had on my brush, we've got to suggest this spot right here. See how I dip down in? There's that spot of red underneath the olive that's reflecting up from the bottom, the fabric below. So we'll do that spot, then we'll go into all of this golden yellow ochre tonality to show the chin. It's coming out right about here. It thins out. And there's this part that goes in. Now we're going to end this little clip on how to paint a martini glass with a few finishing touches. I've got my 00 brush. I'm going to add some cool highlights around the top, some warm highlights down within the stem, and then there's this large shape of cool light right here, which I'm going to use the smaller brush to sort of build outward on. So in terms of highlights, we have a little jewel right down there. Then there's a few little shapes over here too. So what I often do is I place the highlight down and then take the end of my brush, in this case the 00 brush, and just use it to soften the edge of the highlight slightly so it integrates. And there's a few up here, little dashes, and there's one right here. Once again, I can take the end and just drag the highlight down in. Now we've got a case up here where we've got a big, thicker highlight. I can just press right down with it. And there's a small amount over here too. Just get that spot to sort of fuse in with the surrounding area. You can use the side of your pinky too, just press. It's not that long. Let's see. It's more like that. And we have this. And I'm noticing a small amount highlight down in the bottom there. And then that'll move over to a big cool area right there. And then, since we're here, I'm noticing a real thin highlight right along the front of the lips. You can build that up, put that on rather thickly, and then you can use the end of your brush to cut it down like that, and then just cut it down like this. Soften the edge of it. Now take a small amount of the ultramarine blue and mix up a tint. We'll move into some of the cool highlights. This can be pretty thick, a little bit more blue. And to end with, there's a few right back here. Just going to touch them. Actually, I see one right there, a cool highlight. Then we'll move on to the next glass experiment. I actually have the cigar ashtray down below. We're going to paint that now. Oh, one more. Noticing a little bit right here. Forgot about that. Carve that in, soften it. And then there's a little bit along this back edge. Subtle.